I think we're ready, Mike. Are you ready to talk about the Raiders? Mike, tell me about the
I am ready.
2025 Raiders draft class.
Man, it feels like it went really well. Um, I mean, obviously they started with Ashton Janty, and I would argue he was a top three player in this draft. Some could say he was the most dominant. Some could even say he was the best player in this draft. But I think most would give that nod to Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter as well, as far as the blue chips. But I think as far as blue chips, I would say that there were probably three of them, and the third was Ashton Janty. The only question mark is just the fact that he plays running back. How valuable is that position? If your offensive line and if your team isn't ready for that, is it really worth it? You see teams like the Panthers drafting McCaffrey, the Giants drafting Saquon, so forth, right? Does it really matter in the end? I don't know. I think it's gonna help keep the Raiders uh, competitive. I think with Pete Carroll and the way that he likes to run his teams, they want the run game to be successful. Chip Kelly and that offense, you need to run the ball. RPO offense, you need to have the weapons on both sides as far as the running back and the quarterback in being able to threaten the defense. They have that, you know. Um, and I mean, moving forward from Gianti's just I don't have to say too much on that. I'm elated. I'm ecstatic. I can't wait to see it. Uh, Obviously, from that point on, second round through the seventh round is what we didn't get to talk about yet, um, because we live reacted to the first round. The Raiders killed it. It's John Spytek. A slow clap for you, sir, and not just because of the picks, because of the manner in which he fucking killed it in the second round. The second round of this draft was some of my favorite moments that I've ever had in a Raiders draft class. Okay? They're up with the fifth pick in the second round. It was like 37 overall. And I told you on the phone that morning when I was at work. And I said, I was talking a lot about the Raiders trading back last night with the sixth overall pick. And I was saying, like, if I could choose, when we were up at six, I said if I could choose, I would trade back with the Bears right now and get some draft capital, because let's be honest, this team needs it. We need bodies. We need to get more opportunities at hitting on diamonds in the rough, right?
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is to get more second and third rounders.
Dude, you were so
Ob-
excited while it was happening. Like you were texting me, you're like, this motherfucker's 3 for 3.
yeah, and I'll get there. On the picks that he made, he was 3 for 3. And I'll explain that in a second. But first and foremost was the trade backs in the second round. I have never seen it from the Raiders. Um, it wasn't just that he traded back the first one. He trades back with the Dolphins, and it's the 37th overall pick. They trade back to, like, I think it was 48. They moved back 11 spots, and there was still plenty of talent on the board. So I was like, I'm fine with this. There's plenty of corners. The cornerback run has not started. I was thinking corner, but I knew wide receiver was up there on my list as far as what we should do, because we took the running back in the first round. I also wanted offensive line. In fact, I thought if they stayed at the second round pick, uh, the guard from Arizona, Jonah Savaiena, however you say it, I thought that would have been a great pick, and it made sense. I should have made him a Raider fit, because he was coming from Arizona, and so is our offensive line coach, Brennan Carroll, Pete Carroll's son. He was the coordinator for Arizona last year. You want to talk about a perfect fit, an offensive line coach and a guy who was on his offensive line last year? That would have made so much sense. He literally goes to the Dolphins at that pick that we traded back from. But what did the Raiders do? They gave them their second round pick as well as their fifth, and they pick up the second, 48, right? A third, and a 4th. So what did they really do? They move back in the 2nd, they move up from the 5th to the 4th, and they pick up a 3rd. Right then and there, I was like, awesome. We just moved back 11 spots, and we just got our Geno Smith pick back. Thank you. We needed that. We really needed a bonus 3rd-round pick. And then what happens? The 48th pick, the Raiders are now on the clock. Oh, breaking news, we have another trade. The Raiders have traded back again, and we picked up another 3rd-round pick. I think it was just straight up 2nd and 3rd for our 2nd-round pick. So then it was, let's see, I believe it was pick 57. Of course, I lost it. Where was it? Oh, hold on.
Pick 57?
Goodness gracious. I believe it was pick 57. Why?
Real
Why
quick,
do I do this to myself?
do you
Yep.
mind if while you figure that out, can I name the rounds in which the Raiders took their players, the picks, and their height and their weight? Like, can we introduce the Raiders draft picks, and then you talk about like how they made the moves, and so that way we know who we're talking about and when.
Yeah, I mean that's really I'm done talking about trades because I think that was their last trade. Really, it was just the fact that all I was getting at there is just John Spytek picked up 2 bonus 3rd-round picks by moving back twice in the 2nd round. And what I told you on the phone was this is the highest capital they have left. Trade back and get something, and they did it twice, and I was astounded. I was like, this is what they need. More 3rd-round picks where you can still pick up guys at the peak value in this draft. When I say value, I don't mean like the 3rd-round picks are going to be the best in this class, but just you're going to find you have more chances at finding those guys in the 3rd round, in my opinion, in this class than or as at value, rather than say the 5th. Anyways,
Yeah, so in round 1, obviously if you tuned in last week, well, on Thursday, you were here with us. The Raiders selected with their number 6 overall pick, Ashton Gianti, running back from Boise State. He's 5'8", he's 211 pounds, and he is a bruiser. Tell us about Ashton Gianti. Sum him up in a couple sentences, Mike.
I mean, one thing he said he likes that he heard somebody call him a rolling ball of knives, something like that. But I mean, if you're looking for contact balance, burst, vision, it's as good as it gets, really. He is the definition of a 3-down bell cow back. If you're looking for a running back in a draft, you can't ask for much better here.
In round 2, the Raiders, with their number 26 overall pick, selected Jack Betch. Is it Besh? Betch?
58 overall, 26th in the round, I'm assuming. Yeah, Jack Besh, one of my guys at wide receiver.
Yeah, okay. It was number 26 in the round. 58 overall.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Wide receiver from TCU. He's 6'1", 214 pounds. Tell us about him.
The comp that I had when I watched him was, man, he gives me Cooper Kupp vibes. And I'm not saying he's going to be Cooper Kupp, but just I watched him and I'm like, man, I see Cooper Kupp. A little, like I see shades, And then when he's picked, Daniel Jeremiah or whoever was like, yeah, I would comp him to Puka Nacua. And I'm like, you know what? That makes even more sense because he's so damn physical. He's such a physical route runner. He's physical after the catch. Let's see here. He had a 1.5% drop percentage, I believe, in his career, if not just 2024. That was second best only to Jaden Higgins in the class, tied with Travis Hunter. The dude does not drop passes. He catches everything. So he's a great route runner. He's physical as fuck, which makes so much sense for Pete Carroll and this whole like competitiveness, And he catches everything. And as far as this big slot guy, which actually the reason I didn't name him as a Raider fit was only because I felt we needed boundary receivers. But what I failed to realize was Jack Bech is not solely a big slot guy. He can absolutely play outside. Will he play in the slot? I'm sure he will line up in the slot, but he can play all over the formation, which is just fantastic. Um, if you throw it up, you want to contest a catch, Jack Bech is your guy. When the pick was made, I honestly thought, wow, they just traded back twice, picked up 2 third-round picks, and Shedeur Sanders is still on the board. They're going to look like they just killed this draft up to that point. And then Jack Bech's name was put out, and I went, oh! Like, I just scoffed. I was like, amazing. Wow, they got one of my guys that I didn't expect that, and I'm elated. They needed that so bad.
Nice, nice. Now with their third round pick, so this one is number 68 overall. I think the Raiders.com just had a typo, but
Hmm.
uh, with their number 68th overall pick in the third round pick, the Raiders select Darian Porter, cornerback from Iowa. He's 6'2", 195 pounds.
Yes. That was the moment when I sent you a text saying this motherfucker John Spytek is 3 for 3. And what I sent you was a picture of my guys chart from the spreadsheet, and I had highlighted 3 of the guys on that list, which were Ashton Jeanty, Jack Bech, and Darian Porter. And then as far as Raider fits that I had, Ashton Jeanty and Darian Porter were, I believe, the only 2 that the Raiders got as far as my fits, but who gives a shit really about what I think. But the reason why he fits so well is because he's a 9.99 athletic score guy as far as the, RAS athletic bomb goes. So as literally as good as it gets as far as a corner physical prospect goes. He was kind of my guy. Like, once they didn't make the second round corner pick, I was like, well, in the third round, Darian Porter just makes too much sense. And they did it. And I was like, oh, wow. Only allowed 5 catches in 2024 in 203 coverage snaps. 5 catches. The crazy thing about him was that I believe 2024 was the only year in which he actually started at corner. He was very much a receiver coming into college and, made the change to corner, I believe, at college. Pete Carroll, obviously properly, like without giving like this is what I expect or this is my comp, but just he kind of compared him in a way to Richard Sherman. Like, he sees similar traits. And to be quite honest, I do too. If I'm not mistaken, Sherman was an ex-receiver turned corner at Stanford. Um, with like not too much experience at corner, but look at how he ended out, right?
Yeah, and
Carroll's known for his long corners, and Porter was just exceptional in 2024, not only in zone coverage, but also in press.
yeah, he's also very fast too. He ran a 4.43 flat.
Yeah, super fast. Again, 9.99 athletic score. Like, everything just checks out.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if they like. I'm sure the athletic score highly values speed. Like that will probably get you like a top athletic score. Or if you're really slow, that'll just like completely like hinder your athletic score. But you know, the
Yeah.
fact that he runs a 4.3, I think is you know, I think that's great.
They
Especially in a
seemingly
division with Xavier Worthy.
they seemingly grade it in 4 different factors. It's the size grade, explosion grade, agility grade, and speed grade. And then with that comes, their size, their hand size, arm length, stuff like that, their height. But that goes into the size grade, but still. Most of the picks that the Raiders made were like 9.0 or above athletes. But what's nice about this regime is it's not necessarily that they're just the athletes that they're like, oh, we're going to coach them up, like typical Al Davis mentality. Very much successful college players who just so happen to be athletes, you know?
Hmm. Really
So,
quickly before we move on to the following draft picks, I do want to get to these comments right here, because we can't keep them waiting too long. Sammy Joe says Raiders kept drafting guys that I thought would be good on the Chiefs. I had my eyes on those players. Um,
I like to
and
hear that.
then and then Raider Nation 510 says Las Vegas Raiders got the best schemes on both sides of the ball. Now we're loaded with tons of talent. We will hang with the best.
Feel that.
Sammy Joe says Titans drafting Derrick Henry, Browns drafting Nick Chubb, and the Cardinals too. Uh, Probably comparing the Gianti pick.
Right, to not so winning teams having running backs. I agree. The Titans might have been the only one there that actually turned it around and became a highly seeded team, but unfortunately didn't even do anything in the playoffs.
It's crazy how long Derrick Henry had to wait in order to really break out because he was behind DeMarco Murray at a certain point, I think.
Yeah.
Sammy Joe says, let's see, Besh, I think plays like a tall Edelman.
Yeah.
ESPN showcased top 10 picks, and GNT, they only showed his eyes and hat because of his height. Internet said they were wrong for doing him like that.
Yeah, it was almost like a Mike Wazowski meme. It was pretty fucking funny.
Mm-hmm. And Sammy Joe says next year Raiders should try and grab safety. Caleb Downs, perhaps. Safety being the weakest position now isn't a bad place to be.
Yeah, I mean, I I would actually say that linebacker might be our weakest position. That or nickel corner. Um, but it's certainly debatable.
Mm-hmm. So in the third round, with the 98th overall pick, the Las Vegas Raiders selected Caleb Rogers, offensive lineman from Texas Tech. He's 6'4", 312 pounds. What can you tell me, Mike?
Um, Not too much yet. I'm very excited to watch him in the preseason. This is a guy who I will definitely have my eye on as far as being in the mix to start day one. I think that he will be in play for those guard positions. With those position battles, right? I think based off of this draft and just looking at the offensive line on the roster, I think Jackson Powers Johnson has the center position on lock, unless something miraculous happens for Dylan Parham. Um, so other than Jackson Powers Johnson at center, it's really just between Jordan Meredith, Dylan Parham, Alex Kappa, I think specifically right guard for him, and Caleb Rogers at guard. And I like that. Again, with those trade backs that Spytech made in the second round, we not only got Caleb Rogers out of that, we also got the next pick, Charles Grant. Which, if you'd like to go on him right now, I can kind of tackle both at the same time because they were literally back to back picks.
Yeah, so 99th overall pick, Charles Grant, tackle from William and Mary. He's 6'4", 311 pounds. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I look at him as probably the main pick besides the quarterbacks, which we'll get to soon. Charles Grant screams to me as a developmental guy. Like I said earlier, I see him developing into the swing tackle for this team and hopefully into a starting role on this team. I can see him eventually becoming the right tackle. If a contract can't be made out with Colt Miller, I mean, he's a left tackle out of college. Um, so anything can happen there. I just think coming from such a small school, again, William and Mary, I think is what it's called. I've never heard of it before. There were a couple schools in this draft class. I was like, I've never heard of that. Middlebury. I was like, what? Um, I think he needs the first season to develop physically and also into the pro style offense, right? Um, in a pinch, could he play a swing tackle role? A six lineman. You know, sure. But also, if you have a guy like Thayer Munford on the bench, like why not just Thayer Munford? Because his body is physically ready for it. Which is why again I expect Charles Grant to be more of a developmental 1 to 2 year type of project, and then after that point, I could see him starting.
Mm.
Whereas again, Caleb Rogers played tackle, played guard in college at Texas Tech. Um, he physically looks a little bit more ready for the roles, and what I like about him when I do see little bits and pieces of him, um, as far as film, he's really good on the run, which is why no, I don't suspect Pete Carroll actually in the post draft press conference said like they envision Caleb Rogers on the inside and they envision Charles Grant on the outside, and I see it because again Charles Grant has the frame, just needs to build. Caleb Rogers, he's good at on the run, which tells me he should be a pulling guard, right? He should be able to go in there and pull. Um, I like the feel of that, and again, just the main point here is these were two picks that Spytech pulled out of thin air just by moving back in the second round. They still pick a guy that I'm euphoric about in Jack Besh in the second round later in the round, right? Could they have had a better guy? Sure. But then how does our offensive line look right now? Or take the offensive line picks away. Maybe they take one less defensive tackle. Maybe both of these guys are gone. Apparently the Niners wanted Charles Grant. Do they get Caleb Rogers in the fourth round? I don't know. The draft would be completely different if we don't get those trade backs, which is why I wanted trade backs. I love it. We got
Question.
two free first or third or offensive linemen that we can develop into potential starters moving forward. Yeah.
That was going to be my question. Do you see any of these guys, seeing the field for extended periods of time in their rookie year? I mean, they're third round picks. You know.
That's what I like that they're third round picks. It's like it's not unrealistic. Um, Caleb Rogers is definitely the guy that of these two that I would expect to see earlier. Not necessarily that he has to start. I just think he's going to be in play for the competitions at left and right guard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and really, I don't really think it's necessary that I project it. It's more of just I'm really curious to see how it goes in training camp and especially the preseason. You know,
Now, really quickly, I do want to recap where we're at in this draft right now. Because assuming that these picks pan out, what the Raiders have effectively done is get a top tier bell cow running back. They've gotten in, and don't even mind what order it's in. You know, they've gotten a top tier bell cow running back, generational talent. Some would say. They've gotten, they added a wide receiver in order to open up Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers a little bit. Space the field.
and support the quarterback.
Yeah, support Geno Smith. They have added to their secondary, a speedy corner.
Potential starter. If I had to guess on Darian Porter, maybe he's not starting day one, but I'd say by the end of the season, I would kind of expect it.
And
He'll certainly see playing time.
they bolstered their offensive linemen. All right, so what it should tell you is the Raiders took two offensive linemen with back-to-back picks right before a team that needed an offensive lineman was about to pick, and they just completely went in another direction. So, I mean, you can make the argument that the Raiders took at least one lineman that might have been the next pick. They might have sniped the next team.
Like you had mentioned, I don't know who the guy was, but there's even reporting that very well might be true.
Yeah, it was Matt
So
Barrows that reported that. In round 4, with the number 108th overall pick, the Raiders selected Dante Thornton Jr., wide receiver from Tennessee. He's 6'5", 205 pounds. I thought you were laughing
Yeah,
at me for a
man.
second. I went, what did I do?
Yeah, did I butcher that name?
No, you were like smiling as like, before I got to read the height and the weight, and I went, oh, did I? Yeah, did I butcher it?
Exactly. Um, when we started talking free agency, one of the big needs that I mentioned for the Raiders was a big boundary deep threat wide receiver. And that is exactly what Dont'e Thornton is. Oh, let's see if I can find the tweet. I swear I sent myself a tweet about him that was like, wow, are you kidding? I hope it was a tweet. I'll find it. Oh shit, that's Kelvin Banks. That's before that. Oh.
Welcome back, Henry Ruggs.
Um. The thing about Dont'e Thornton, he might start out as kind of a like a niche player, a utility sort of guy. But man, I mean, his separation ability, his 9 route ability, his slant route ability, like get him going in the straight line and get him the ball, he's going to separate and he's going to score touchdowns. This was very much a sleeper in this class. I think the 4th-round pick was perfect value, especially considering his size, speed, relationship there. Like it's special. Here's a tweet from Jacob Gibbs.
He is very tall and very fast. He could be the number 1 receiver this year.
I mean, the reason why I say he's like maybe more of a niche utility or specialist is just because I think he specializes in deep stuff, in the deep routes, the deep passing game. I would like to see him develop more in like his route running, and I could certainly see him developing into the Raiders' star number 1 receiver. And I could see it where it's him and Jack Besh for years to come. I could absolutely see that paired with Brock Bowers, paired with Ashton Gianti. I mean, dude, this offseason, yeah, Pete Carroll and John Spytek take a bow. But I'm not gonna, I'm clapping, I'm excited. That's not me taking the absolute W. This is for sure gonna work out. I'm a jaded Raider fan. Somehow this will fuck up. But this is a tweet from Jacob Gibbs. Dont'e Thornton Jr. was one of the first names called on day 3. The Raiders selected him ahead of Jalen Royals and Elic Ayomanor. 6'5", 4.30 speed. 4.30 speed and an elite 2.98 career yard per route run rate. What's funny is I swear there's another tweet that I meant to read off about him. Let me get there. I mean, one thing about him is, you think that Trey Tucker is fast. Like, you watch Trey Tucker, short, seemingly slot receiver, although he's not really been exclusive to the slot. But you watch him and you're like, that's a fast cat right there. Like, he is running quick. Dont'e Thornton is like twice his size and he's faster than him.
Yeah, when I compared him to Henry Ruggs, obviously not size-wise because Ruggs was much shorter, but definitely speed. He's definitely quick. I think maybe Ruggs was a little bit quicker.
Yeah. So again, 4.30 40-yard dash. He had 6 50-plus yard receptions, which was first in the nation last year. 25.4 yards per reception. He led the SEC, and 10.7 yards after catch per catch. I mean, this dude's a monster. 6'5", 214. Just like with Darian Porter, like, I don't want to say, yeah, he's the next Richard Sherman. That's over the top. But as far as like the Pete Carroll comps, this is the DK Metcalf clone prospect. I shouldn't call him a clone, but just 9 route specialist, big, tall, fast, Just get him in a straight line and give him the ball. That's what Pete Carroll had in DK Metcalf. Sure-handed, you know.
Hmm.
I think the sky's the limit for this guy. I'm trying not to get too excited about him.
But
Yeah,
you can get very excited for this next guy. With the number 135th overall pick, the Las Vegas Raiders selected Tonka Hemingway, defensive tackle from South Carolina. He was 6'2", 284 pounds.
yeah. I mean, honestly, coming into day 3, after the back-to-back offensive line picks, I felt we need to add onto the defensive line now. And then, of course, they started with Dante Thornton. I was like, I'm not complaining. And then they came back to back with defensive tackles, and I was like, man, I'm loving this. You know. So yeah, Tonka Hemingway, a little, maybe a little light for a D tackle, wouldn't you say? Like, I mean, I guess 280. What do you say? 285. Like that's fine.
Yeah, he was 280. He's 284. Does seem a little bit light, you know.
Mm,
And he is 6'2", so he's kind of undersized a little bit.
mm.
But I feel like you can put mass on.
Yeah,
He just needs to hit the weight room a little bit more.
yeah, I think he's probably another one of those guys, kind of like a Charles Grant, where it's just like give him a year to develop, but at the bare minimum, especially on the D line, like he's got the juice, good depth, you know,
Hmm.
at the bare minimum, good depth in my opinion, and also amazing name,
I
Tonka
think
Hemingway.
I think in the sixth round, the Raiders maybe picked a guy who might be ready a little bit quicker, a little bit
Mm.
sooner than Hemingway. But with the 180th overall pick, the Raiders selected J.J. Peggs, defensive tackle, Ole Miss, 6'2", 309 pounds. So definitely much heavier than Hemingway.
Mm. One last thing on Tonka Hemingway, he did show out at the Shrine Bowl back in February, I believe. But on to JJ. I'm gonna have trouble with this name until I get the official announcement on how to say it. But Pegues. I'm gonna say Pegues. Okay.
I'm gonna say it's Pegs
Um, Pigs. I don't like that.
because
I'm gonna go with
he's
Pegues.
because he's gonna be pegging opposing quarterbacks for years to come.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Um, but yeah, 6'3", 309, 2-year college starter. Another fun pick, man. Like I believe he's able to line up all over the D line. I believe he can play nose tackle if you need him to, which is nice because I felt like that was a need for this team. He had 42 tackles, 13.5 tackles for loss, and 3.5 sacks in 2024. But oh, by the way, he also can play fullback. It's just so much fun. Watching him truck guys as a D tackle. I think he hurdled somebody in one of his plays as a fullback. He pulled a spin move in one of his plays and like successfully like broke the tackle. I it's a lot of fun. I love this pick.
I don't know
And this was a
why.
guy that I talked about on the pre-draft show on I think Monday last week, a week ago, saying like I watched him and he just looks like he has a lot of juice. Like he has explosiveness to him.
I don't know why more defensive tackles don't play fullback. Like I think the Chargers, Chargers started doing it, with Harbaugh. I want to say the Ravens, you know, they converted a defensive lineman into a fullback. Um, but I mean, obviously Tom Rathman back in the day, defensive lineman and fullback. Um,
Mm.
you know, I'm just thinking about like for the Niners, not to like steal thunder from the Raiders and the Raiders topic, but you know, Alfred Collins, their second round pick, he's 6'6", 332. You're telling me on the goal line, you're not gonna try and line him up to either block and get McCaffrey in the end zone, or even just try to fucking give the ball to him. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would love to
Um.
see. I would love to see if one day they could try and get Trent Williams the ball.
mm,
Imagine trying to bring down Trent Williams. If he's
yeah.
running
Good
at you
luck.
full speed with the ball in his hand, and you're just like a skinny ass corner, like
Yeah. No, it's not happening.
cue a
Just go for
fucking
the feet.
cue a train sound effect.
Yeah.
I I would just dive at the legs and hope for the best.
Yeah. Um. Slayman Sammy Jones, newest comment. Late six might have been better off going safety or second running back instead, but it's so late in the draft at that point, anyways. I'd say this is a good moment to say I truly do believe after witnessing this draft, I think the Raiders just went with their board, you know? And I think in the end of the third round, when they had those bonus picks, they were sitting there going, man, we got these two offensive linemen at the top of our board here. Let's just take them. Fourth round. Wow, we got Dante Thornton still available here. Like, we love everything about him. Let's take him. And then two straight D tackles. Just highest guys on the board. Tonka Hemingway was a little lower than Pegues on like the consensus boards, but I I think there was such a drop off between the fourth round and the sixth round that it's not like it was planned for them to go two straight D tackles. I just think they were sitting there beginning of the sixth and went, "Wow, Pegues is still here. Let's take him." You know. And then of course the next two picks were two very interesting picks if you want to get into those.
Hmm. I was looking up to see how do you pronounce his last name, because
Hmm.
I just freaking went for pegs, man. Uh,
Yeah, I mean it could work. That's for sure.
in the sixth round with the number 213th overall pick, the Las Vegas Raiders selected Tommy Mellott, quarterback from Montana State, 5'11", 200 pounds. Quarterback of the future, Mike. Quarterback controversy brewing in Las Vegas. What's going on?
How tall is Russell Wilson?
Like
Because
six
he was short
one.
for his time. Yeah, and like Drew Brees was the guy who was considered somewhat short for his,
No,
for being a quarterback.
Wilson's 5'11".
Wow. Okay.
So same height.
Yeah. Okay, that's
Drew Brees
interesting.
was shorter
Still,
though.
wow. Interesting. Um, yeah, Tommy Malott
Oh no, he wasn't.
apparently.
He was fucking 6 feet.
Yeah.
Why did I
Yeah, I
think
knew
Drew Brees
Russell
was
Wilson was a
five
little
nine?
shorter. Yeah, I don't think 5'9" would work in the NFL. Um,
Isn't
I'm
Kyler
curious what
like
the
5'9"? No, he's 5'10".
maybe if I yeah I was gonna say if I had to
Bryce
guess
Young
5'10".
might be 5'9".
Are you looking it up?
No, he's 5'10". Damn it.
5'10". Yeah, that's probably the floor. I mean, Tommy Lott being 5'11", that gives me a little bit better, you know, uh, comfort if he does stick at quarterback. But the talk out of town after the pick was made, excuse me, was a lot of teams felt that he was. Excuse me, I got the hiccups, I had to burp, and I yawned all at the same time. That was awesome. Thank
And you
you.
farted. Stinks back here.
Yeah, and I just totally shat my pants. Just kidding. But Montana State quarterback Tommy Malott. Excuse me, I have to go throw up right now. Um, he was looked at by most teams as a wide receiver. He's going to most likely be a convert to a slot wide receiver sort of role, but many think that maybe he could play a Taysom Hill sort of role, where you can have packages like a wildcat sort of thing, where he comes in and he might run, but he also might throw. He has 4.39 speed. The dude is, yeah, it's Sammy Joe right there. Taysom Hill 2.0. He has insane speed. For the FCS, Montana State, North Dakota State, those sorts of teams, he won the Walter Payton Award, which is essentially the FCS version of the Heisman, right? Just total playmaker. Um, yeah, I mean, I can't speak to how he plays as a quarterback, but I know he's fast as shit. Um, so if you want to get him to play, if they can convert him to wide receiver, if he can be a good special teams player, he has a place on the roster. Um, I've also seen some people saying like if of all the draft picks the Raiders made, maybe this is the guy that becomes a practice squad guy because you want to develop him at a position that he hasn't played in college really. I can see that, but I wonder if somebody snags him because the Raiders picked him in the 6th round and it's like, well, let's try it out, you know? So I'm certainly curious there. But yeah, I mean the preseason. I'm gonna be very curious to watch Tommy Mellott this preseason, as well as the next guy.
The next guy with the 215th overall pick, the Las Vegas Raiders selected Cam Miller, quarterback, North Dakota State. Height 6'1", 210 pounds. And what we know about quarterbacks from North Dakota State is, you guys picked them with the 215th overall pick. They typically go in the 1st round, high draft pick.
Oh yeah, North Dakota State quarterbacks.
Clearly referring to just Carson Wentz, not anybody else.
Yeah. It's funny how I don't know. It's North Dakota State, so of course he won a bunch of games in the FCS, but labeled by Pete Carroll, like somebody told him like the Raiders drafted him because he's a winner, essentially, or like something they really liked about him was that he's a winner, and I think they clearly whatever they view Tommy Mellott as, whether it's quarterback or wide receiver, Cam Miller is a developmental quarterback. He has the size. He has the frame. Does he have the best arm? No, but he also does have some speed to him. And I think when they made that pick, I immediately was kicking myself because all the hints were there. He was the most like low profile guy that they had come in for a top 30 visit, and I was like, interesting. Anytime they visit with a quarterback, it's like, interesting. And it was like Quinn Ewers, Will Howard, Cam Ward, maybe? I'm not sure. But they definitely also met with Cam Miller, and I was like, you know what? With this Chip Kelly RPO offense, this guy makes a lot of sense because he has the mobile ability. I don't know exactly what his 40 time was. It wasn't 4.39 like Tommy Mellott, but when you watch him, he is willing to run, and I could see this being a cool, develop on the as the QB3 sort of developmental quarterback for the Raiders. Yeah, I don't know. I just in hindsight I was like, yeah, that made sense. That made a lot of sense.
Yeah, and typically what I do on this show is add irrelevant information. But when I look at Cam Miller's picture versus the other Raider pictures, I'd say Cam Miller is the ugliest one, I think, by far out of all the Raider draft picks, at least according to the picture. Maybe he's Jimmy Garoppolo in real life, but this is not a good picture, man.
When he has a helmet on, he looks cool.
Yeah, he should wear.
When he has a helmet off, when he has a helmet off, he kind of looks like a Minecraft character.
He does have a blocky face, man.
Yeah, that was kind of the intention there, but I don't mean anything bad there. But I like the potential as far as developing him and seeing what happens here. At worst, he's a backup quarterback. Well, I guess at worst he's just a complete, fizzle out and nothing. But I think he'll be at worst QB3. He's got the mobile ability. Like it makes sense. It fits. Mm-hmm. Raider Nation 510 said honestly preferred if we had taken Ewers over Miller, but who knows? Yeah, that honestly, when they took Tommy Mellott, it was announced at least on the screen. I think I had it muted as quarterback, so I was like, I don't even know who this guy is. I feel stupid. And then later I found out, oh no, he might be a wide receiver convert, and I was like, okay, boom, Cam Miller's picked, and I'm like, oh, yeah, Quinn Ewers was still on the board, and I thought that was a guy that might go with, and I was like, if they do this, you're picking him almost in the 7th round, like, great job. I didn't think Quinn Ewers was going to fall this far. Does he have personality problems? Apparently, too. You know, hint, hint. Shitter Sanders. Who knows? But I know one thing is I definitely there were points where I was like, wow, I really feel bad for both Shitter and Quinn Ewers because they were just sitting there all day, multiple days, thinking they were going to be done way earlier.
Mm-hmm. I see Frank in the comments says Miller already knows how to win. You know who already knew how to win before going to the Raiders?
John Gruden, man.
No, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah,
Jimmy
there you
Garoppolo
go.
knew how to win. No, but shout out to Frank tuning back in. Frank is one of our regular commenters, one of the MVPs of the channel. Uh, let's see here. With the final pick in the Raiders 2025 NFL draft, the Raiders would select Cody Lindenberg, linebacker from
Yep.
Minnesota, 6'2", 236 pounds.
Yeah. Back when the Raiders were getting towards their Tommy Mellott pick, one of my favorite follows as far as Raiders Twitter goes, Tristan Kuhn tweeted, "I'm honestly shocked that Cody Lindenberg is still on the board here. Would be a great pick for the Raiders." And I'm thinking, oh yeah, as far as like box checked in this draft, the last thing I needed personally was linebacker when we got to those quarterback picks. And backup quarterback too, but at that point I was like, I don't really know if we're gonna do it. Like I guess Quinn Ewers, and then they did what they did. Yeah, Cody Lindenberg could very well be a steal, as Slim and Sammy Joe is saying. Um, this is a tweet from Tashawn Reed. Raiders drafted Minnesota linebacker Cody Lindenberg with pick 222. Was a 3-year college starter, primarily lined up at Mike, but he can also play Will. And we need both. Okay. He had his best season last year with 94 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 7 pass deflections. So a little bit all around. He's good at getting behind the line of scrimmage. He's good against the pass. I'd say he's probably better against the run. But he's huge. He looks huge when you watch him. 6'2", 236. Yeah, all 236 pounds is there. And a lot of it is in the length. Like, I'm curious what his wingspan is. The dude just looks huge to me. But yeah, he's able to drop back in space, and he's great at tracking and getting tackles for loss. So, Raider Nation 5-0, Amari Gainer and Landon Roberts will be the starting linebackers. I like it. I think Amari Gainer is a guy to watch. Ever since last year's preseason, Amari Gainer is the guy for me of like, I'm really intrigued to see how it goes for him this year. I could see Amari Gainer and a guy like Cody Lindenberg being the reason why. Of course, now I'm forgetting. No, not Rashad White. Jeez Louise. A reason why Devin White gets cut at the 53-man cut roster day. I could see Amari Burney being the linebacker or the starter, and a guy like Cody Lindenberg being right there with him, or kind of splitting reps with Landon Roberts. And then the wild card too is Tommy Eichenberg, also Amari Burney. So there's bodies in there. It's just they don't have like a bona fide guy besides Landon Roberts, who is very much a 2-down guy. And then Devin White. So.
Do you want to tell us who the undrafted free agents are for the Raiders?
Yeah. Honestly, if you want to pull up the spreadsheet real quick, we can kind of give a little visual aid as well. But I'll start reading them now. Go down to the right, and then below, like the practice squad, you're going to find where the drafted, undrafted free agents, and camp invites will be. Keep going down. Here we are. So, obviously, they drafted Gianti, Besh, Porter, Rogers, Grant, Thornton Jr., Hemingway, Pegues, and Mellott, Miller, and Lindenberg. Undrafted free agents, Jaw Joyner, defensive end from Minnesota. He was a guy that was actually on my board, so seeing him get picked up, I was like, cool. sounds like we got a guy who arguably could have been drafted this year. Matt Jones, inside linebacker from Baylor. I'll take all the linebackers I can get. Parker Clements from Virginia Tech at right tackle. I saw the comments for this one. A lot of Virginia Tech fans were saying, rest in peace, Raider fans. Good luck to you. So, curious what that will be like. Mello Dotson, cornerback from Kansas. Sounds like a solid pickup for, as far as undrafted free agency goes. Jared Huford, offensive center from Iowa State. I say Huford like that because...
I hope he makes the team and Beth Mowins has to go. Jared Huford, the second coming of Clive Walford.
Yeah, Huford. One of my favorite TikToks is this dog. I don't even know what kind of dog it is. It's kind of like Scooby-Doo. Whatever type of dog that, I guess like a Great Dane, but I don't think this is a Great Dane. He's sitting in the passenger seat of some guy's truck, and he's just falling asleep. And then the guy's like, Buford! And the dog's like, what? And then immediately falls back asleep. Buford! It's one of my favorite TikToks ever. Carter Runyon, tight end from Towson, another school. I'm like, what? Where? Don't know. Trevin Ma'ai from Baylor, another guy that was on the board at D tackle, a guy that's in play along with a Jaw Joyner, Mello Dotson, really anybody to make the team. Hudson Clark, cornerback, Arkansas. I'm like 99% confirmed. We have found a white corner, folks. So he's probably not making the team. But hey, it's interesting. He played all along the defensive backfield for Arkansas. He played at free safety, strong safety. He played in the nickel, okay? But most of his snaps came at boundary corner.
Hey, I'm just gonna take a full on shot at slamming Sammy Joe, just because he's a Chiefs fan. But maybe the Raiders should just keep Hudson Clark to play against the Chiefs because Mahomes doesn't see those white corners.
Hey, there you go.
Sorry, I know I can't talk because I'm a Niner fan, and I can get more blasted than what I just did. So I probably should have just kept my mouth shut. I'm done.
Yeah, Slamming Sammy Joe can reference 2 different years and hurt your feelings very quickly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Greedy Vance, corner from USC. Also John Humphrey, corner from USC. So picked up a bunch of corners, right? At least 4, 5. Hajj Malik Williams, like Raider Nation 510 is saying, according to Raider Nation 510, he plays like Kyler Murray in his opinion. Not gonna lie. That's interesting to me, and that tracks with the Chip Kelly RPO offense, right? So that's a guy that I'm very curious to see in the preseason months from now. I wish it were tomorrow, dude. I'm ready for the preseason. Jalen Walker, linebacker, Indiana. That was the guy, we were talking about Jalen Walker who ended up with the Falcons.
Yeah.
This is the other spelling, Jalen Walker, who ran a 4.40 40, if I'm not mistaken, at linebacker. So certainly a wild card at linebacker for the Raiders. Patrick Conroy. This is a tight end from Old Dominion. I believe he is also a fullback. In fact, I know he is because the relative athletic score, he got a 9.98 at the fullback position. So if the Raiders are looking to have a fullback on the roster, Patrick Conroy has a clean way to making the 53 because there's no other fullback on the roster.
Hey, real quick, I love slamming Sammy Joe's clapback. He says, "Nah, he sees them. He just isn't used to them being a threat."
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, the only one that he knows is Riley Moss, probably on a regular basis from the Broncos. But there is the last white corner that he played, which was Cooper DeJean. So that didn't end out good for him. Sorry, I'm sorry. I forgot that, like, in that moment, I forgot that you were a Chiefs fan. I'm not trying to shove that moment in your face. That was more just me. I like Cooper DeJean.
Hey,
That was a
what?
guy who a year ago I was saying like he was one of my guys.
I wasn't paying attention. What happened when Mahomes played the white corner last time?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Uh, Not
I
good
think
things
we
for
just
Mahomes.
lost. I think we just lost Sammy.
Sorry, Sammy. Hey man, you guys are still three-time champs with Mahomes, right? Like as much as it sucks and probably still stings from the last Super Bowl, you guys are doing great. Yeah, dude. Maybe after this we can pull up the Chiefs draft class. Every time the Chiefs picked, I was like, fuck, another one, man. That's another great steal of a pick. And then I saw the final list like this morning, and I was like, oh my god, it was worse than I thought. Like they had, I would argue the Chiefs might have had the best draft in the entire class. It's probably them, the Patriots. I do believe the Raiders are up there. The Ravens are up there. Some of your typical teams, you know. But the Chiefs, man, it just they just kept letting players fall to them. It sucks. Jordan Taylor, corner from James Madison, Anthony Booker Jr., a nose tackle from SMU. We need more nose tackles, so it's good to get a big body in there. We'll see what he does. And then Dominic Boyd, offensive tackle from Georgia Southern. And then as far as camp invites, Kevin Porter, defensive tackle Wake Forest, Josh Carlin, interior offensive line UCLA, Bless Harris, there's another great name, interior offensive line from TCU, teammates Jack Besh, Campy Goff, another great name, safety from Air Force, I'm assuming former teammate of Trey Taylor, our safety. So two safeties from Air Force, back to back years. Kalon Griffin, running back. That's your only running back, I think, from, I believe that's Liberty, LU. Tom Callahan, long snapper from some Syracuse, so little long snapper action on a tryout basis. Lorando Johnson, corner from Baylor. Quinn Schultz, safety from Iowa. Jake Roberts, tight end from Oklahoma. I'm going to skip Dorian Singer. Jafari Harvey from defensive line from SMU. And then lastly, I will say Dorian Singer, the second from Utah, wide receiver. There, I don't know. Some people were talking about Dorian Singer and like this. Oh, this is super interesting. Let's see. There's a tweet from Jordan Schultz. Former Utah wide receiver Dorian Singer has accepted an invite to the Raiders rookie minicamp. Per sources, the NCAA denied Singer an extra year of eligibility just a day before the Big 12 Pro Day. I'm told Singer, a former All Pac-12 performer, ran a 4.53 40-yard dash.
Really quickly, just to
Um,
verify, Kalon Griffin, the running back
yeah,
from LU,
hmm.
it's from Lamar University.
Lamar. There you go. So, yeah, I figured if it were Liberty, I would have probably typed it out or something like that. I had never seen LU. I was kind of guessing there. But yeah, Lamar. There you go. Very small school. Um, but yeah, Dorian Singer, former 1,000-yard receiver at Arizona, and again, coming from Utah, he's a wild card, which you don't really get many of those from camp invites. So it'll be interesting to hear his name, see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Raiders are currently at about 90 man. Oh no, yeah, 91 man roster, which makes sense because David Agoha is excluded from counting against the 90 man roster. So they are right at the max right now. They cut a few guys or actually before like day two, to get themselves prepped for undrafted free agency and whatnot. And then just as an additional kind of note on the Raiders before we probably get back to the comments, I'm a little confused on when the compensatory draft formula ends as far as free agency goes and how free agency affects it. I've seen mixed talk or reporting, if you will, on it. I read it up last night, and what I saw was as of 2015, the compensatory draft pick formula stops being affected by free agency 2 Wednesdays after the draft. But then I saw a tweet from Tristan Kuhn that was suggesting that either today or immediately after the draft was when, the comp pick formula stops being affected by free agency, which would explain teams like the Browns signing that wide receiver Deontay Johnson, and this doesn't affect it. But Hunter Renfrow signing with the Panthers was cool, you know. But I feel like there was another. The Packers signed Isaiah Simmons. So teams are starting to dip back into free agency now that the draft's over. They know what their needs are, right? Whenever the compensatory draft pick formula is ceased to be impacted by free agency, I expect the Raiders to dig in there. Perhaps they wait until after rookie minicamp so they can see which guys are probably not going to make this roster. Similar to cutting up like 5 or 6 guys day 2 of the draft, guys that they saw at the OTAs, and determined probably, hey, they're not going to make this team. Let's be honest. Let's get them out of here. Let's get more room for undrafted rookies, right? But the Raiders are sitting currently with the second most cap space in the league. I think they have some holes still. I think you can find a linebacker out there like Kazir White, and you could slide him in at weak side linebacker. Mike Hilton, nickel corner. Bring him on in. If you want a physical nickel, if you want a good coverage nickel, Asante Samuel Jr. is still out there. If I had to guess, they would prefer Mike Hilton, not only because he's a veteran, but because he's, again, more physical in the tackling game, right? Very underrated nickel. Still sitting out there. I think they probably feel a little. That's debatable. Actually, I did notice. Yeah, Raider 510. Jalen Ramsey would complete our roster. I saw a couple tweets about Jalen Ramsey today. Hey, the Raiders again had the second most cap space. Could they make something happen there? Possibly. I think he would fit pretty well. Yeah, that's my problem. That's my problem with it. I think he's already 31 and he's still on like 3 years left on a very big deal. If I'm the Raiders, I wait for him to get cut. If they're really serious about getting rid of him. If another team trades for him, fuck it. Like, I'm not trying to give up future draft capital for a guy who very well might be washed, you know? At that rate, financially against the cap, as well as whatever they would have to give up, let's say a future 4th or 5th round pick. Like, I'd rather have the pick, honestly, at that rate in which he's getting paid, cap hits, all that, his age, I'd rather have the pick. Which is why I was kind of saying I think they might actually be a little more confident at boundary corner than you would think. They have a lot of bodies in there right now, including guys like Jacorian Bennett, who I think is a starter. DeCamerion Richardson, he was a 4th round pick last year. He kind of struggled, but you never know. He might get better this year. He's still playing under why do I always do this? Defensive coordinator Patrick Graham. So it's not like there's a major change there or anything. Eric Stokes was the big corner signing. I'd say a high upside, but also low floor as far as injuries go type of guy. And again, they draft Darian Porter. Like, they have potential options there. Yeah, and I think they have two starters at safety between Isaiah Pola-Mao and Jeremy Chin. Could you add in another third guy? Certainly. You also have Chris Smith. You also have Lonnie Johnson, Trey Taylor, Thomas Harper. So, I'd say my biggest weaknesses on this roster right now are weak side linebacker. As far as the starter goes, like I don't trust Devin White from what I've seen recently of him. I really like Landon Roberts on the inside, but I need a coverage linebacker. I need a guy that can come in on third down for him, Could it be Cody Lindenberg? Could it be Tommy Eichenberg? Maybe. Could it be Amari Burney or Amari Gaynor? Possibly. But some of those guys are more on the weak side, right? And then the other big hole for me is nickelback, which again, give me Mike Hilton and I feel great. But other than that, a lot of the positions are really just competitions now. Wide receiver. I feel so much better about wide receiver post-draft. With, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, like those are the incumbent guys, but then Jack Bech, Dante Thornton, I feel like you have a little squad right there. Um, I think down the line in a year or two, I'd like to see, depending on how Jack Bech and Thornton develop. Again, like we said earlier, those could be the guys for year to come. 1-2 combo. Whoever's number one. If I had to guess right now, obviously Jack Bech, but the sky's the limit for Dante Thornton. Um, Tight end, we don't have to talk about that. Colton Miller. Guess who was back at OTAs today? Um, I don't know. I think the timing on the reports of, oh no, the Raiders are worried about Christian Wilkins' ankle. Oh no, Colton Miller's holding out from OTAs. Yeah, man, I think they might have fucking killed it on the smoke screens because both of those reports came out after all the Ashton Gianti talk. And then what happened? The Raiders are definitely taking an offensive tackle. All the mock drafts were offensive tackle, right? Nope. Gianti was the guy the whole time.
Yeah, and then
Smoke screen, baby.
Enrique even came into our comment section and told us, yeah, the hints are at Jackson Dart.
Yeah, and honestly, in hindsight, I think those hints are just a complete, like,
Misunderstanding.
not misunderstanding, like, almost like Pete Carroll is trolling. You know? You really think he's going to give us the answer before we make the pick? Fuck no.
My question to you, Mike, is who theoretically should see the field the most out of these rookies?
Jack Bech, obviously. I mean, Gianti will see the most. He's going to get 100%, well, 90% snaps at running back. Like, bell cow, you know? But Jack Bech, I fully expect him to supplant Trey Tucker year one. He will be the number 2 to Jacoby Myers at wide receiver. And then Dante Thornton and Trey Tucker will be your utility wide receivers, you know? And then really the question is who's going to be the 5th receiver? Is Tommy Mellott that guy? You know? Do they keep 6 receivers? I don't know. Currently they have a lot of tight ends on the roster. How many do they keep there? The 1 and 2 are pretty obvious. You also have Ian Thomas, who they signed. Caleb Rogers, another guy, like I said, I could see him starting at guard pretty early. And then Darian Porter, kind of a wild card right now at corner. Like, if he has an amazing preseason training camp, he could be a day one starter opposite Jacorian Bennett, and I won't bitch at all. You know?
Mm.
So, but those would be the guys mainly. And then, I mean, I guess the 2D tackles, I could see them certainly. They're not going to be starting over Christian Wilkins and Adam Butler, even Jonah Loalu. But I could see them getting playtime, you know, kind of cycling in and out.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about this draft class overall?
I tend to agree with Slam and Sammy Joe that the Raiders, along with the Chiefs, had like top 5-ish draft classes. It feels pretty good. Like some of the picks, I thought Tonka Hemingway, again, consensus board, maybe a little bit of a reach, but maybe for the Raiders, not a reach at all. They see something in him. They see the twitchiness. They see the burst. They see whatever they see, right? I liked really most of the picks. I would say the only big question marks was just not getting a slot corner and maybe not going for linebacker earlier. But again, Lindenberg seems like a steal in the 7th round. But then your choice of developmental quarterback, like was mentioned earlier, could have been Quinn Ewers, but they went with a guy like Cam Miller. And then again, a developmental position change guy in Tommy Mellott. If he's going to be a Taysom Hill sort of idea, I see the vision. But if you're really trying to full blown, like, no, he's a slot receiver now, like that might take time. Like we could have took a 3rd running back, well, 2nd in this draft, but 3rd string running back who might actually have more of an effect depending on how they utilize Tommy Mellott. But again, for the most part, I feel very, very good about this draft class, not only because of all the players they picked, but also the manner in which that they got them, namely with that second round, trading back twice, picking up more picks. They ended out with 11 selections. That was tied for the most in franchise history, I believe. Um, Certainly the most. I should have the tweet somewhere, but it was like the only other time was like 2007 in the past like 30 years or something like that. So,
I swear the Niners had 11 selections in a Shanahan draft a couple years ago, but let me see. How many did the Niners have this year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They had 11 this year, too. So,
mm. um, some of these comments here. Pulamau is awesome at linebacker, Raider Nation 5-0. Yeah, he's great in the box. And honestly, that's where I can see how safety is still a need. Of like, if you can sign a Justin Simmons, or there's a couple of guys still out there. Really quick here. Sorry. Where's my free agency? Oh, here we go. Julian Blackman, I believe, is still available. I could be wrong there. And then Marcus Williams. Like, if you want a free safety type, because currently the starters that we have, pull them out, and Jeremy Chin. They're both like your strong safety, like box roll types. They can both play deep, but you know, you could also get more of the traditional free safety to have in sort of a three safety rotation sort of idea, or have either pull them out or the additional safety be like a third safety. I've heard talk that the coaching staff likes Thomas Harper. Chris Smith is still a guy that might be developing out of Georgia a couple years ago. Trey Taylor was a guy that felt like a steal last year in the seventh round out of Air Force, but he didn't get much playing time. He had a big injury, I think, in the preseason. Um, and they signed Lonnie Johnson, so we'll see how it goes at safety. But to the point of pull him out, like, yeah, I just they have a lot of defenders that are versatile. You know, both pull him out and Jeremy Chin at safety. Um, Lindenberg, Sammy Joe. Lindenberg doesn't seem like much like a coverage guy. He doesn't look it. That's for sure. He looks so like big and awkward that it's like there's no way he's good in coverage. He doesn't seem very fast. Like I don't think he's good at like changing direction, but he does have the like burst to track a runner down, especially at the line of scrimmage. Um, But yes, when I see him, I'm like, there's no way this guy is that good in coverage, you know? But he still has some plays in zone that, like, he got the job done. Um, pull him out, a linebacker, sign Simmons seems more to the move to me. Um, Slam and Sammy Joe. If you're talking about Isaiah Simmons, he just got signed today by the Packers. But a Kazir White is a good option, you know? Oh, Simmons, sorry. Justin Simmons, safety. I got you.
yeah, hold on. Let
Um,
me let me scroll up because Slam and Sammy Joe was pleading his case for the Raiders getting Justin Simmons. He
Gotcha.
says Justin Simmons gives Mahomes nightmares more than anyone. Raiders should sign him ASAP. Simmons
I like
literally
that.
picks off Mahomes twice a year, and he's a free agent.
I don't know why he's still a free agent other than like not wanting to go through early camps or something, you know. But I know he's a high character guy. Um, I mean, he's been in the league so long. Pete Carroll's got to know him. Like, and he went to the Falcons last year. Like, I'm sure Spytek has a good idea on him as far as playing the Buccaneers twice. The only thing I would say is he kind of did have a down year, so I wonder if teams look at that and say, "Is he cooked?" You know. But still, I mean, a high character veteran to have in the room, I'm not opposed to that at all. He could play deep regardless. Like, yeah, get him in the building. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. Now, my question for you, Mike, is how are we feeling? Do we want to wrap up, the comments, or do we want to do a bonus topic? It's 11:51 p.m.
Yeah, it is. We should probably do the bonus topic another day. Honestly, we could just wrap up the comments. I am feeling pretty tired. And knowing us and knowing how carefully I would want to talk about that relative to, let's just be honest, it's Shooter Sanders, I would probably take a long time on it. So I'd say
Yeah.
we just save it for another day. Even though right now is kind of the best time to do it because it's still like on topic, but there's not really much going on in the NFL for the next couple weeks, so I think it'll still be an interesting topic whenever we
Mhm.
do our next pod.
Yep. Speaking of our next pod, so, for those of you who are new to our channel, uh, we don't necessarily go live every single week in the off season. We do go live every week in the regular season. In the off season, typically we just wait for there to be stuff to talk about, right? So there might be a little bit of a, I guess, dead period of information, to come out. But what Mike and I like to do here, we like to wait until there's stuff that we actually feel like we have, you know, stuff to give input on, and not just go live for the sake of going live. So whenever you guys see us on live stream, it's because we have something to say, like
Yeah.
about what's going on with either team, or I mean, we've even talked about other sports on this channel too. Like we try to keep it 99.9% Niners and Raiders, or just NFL in general. But we have talked about, the Oakland Athletics leaving. We have talked about, a little bit of, even earlier we talked about the Warriors, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Ricky
so
Henderson passing away,
yeah, Ricky
stuff
Henderson
like
passing
that.
away, our Bay Area Mount Rushmores. Dude, we still have to do that topic with the NFL coaches. We're not going to spoil it. You know what I'm talking about, right? We have like
Yeah.
like two topics. We got to do that. Who knows? Maybe we'll go live next week doing that. But we try to not bloat. Like I. It sounds a little bit funny because like you might look at our live streams and think, man, what would they talk about for 4 hours, 4.5 hours, right? Like, just kind of looking at like the timestamps. But since we since other content creators will go live multiple times a week, and they'll have like maybe multiple 1 hour shows, Mike and I, it's like we would just normally have these conversations, just like if we're playing Xbox, or like, on the phone or whatever. So we try to bring those conversations to you guys, and we love to have you guys a part of it, just by having your comments on the screen, helping guide the conversation in areas that we hadn't even considered. Like Slam and Sammy Joe has been killing it the past couple, live streams. I'll just provide an example of like the Justin Simmons. We would not have probably talked about Justin Simmons at all, but Slam and Sammy Joe is in the comments right now, just, you know, leading us that way. And I love Raider Nation 510's, comments about, just he's very high on this draft. It helps me kind of perceive, how Raider fans think that the draft went, you know, and it just kind of, I like to put myself in other people's shoes, when I'm thinking about something. So it helps me kind of formulate my opinion, you know, because I'll be honest, really, I only love the 49ers, right? So I can't fake that love for the Raiders, but hearing you guys get excited about some stuff for the Raiders also can get me excited. Like, my background, I, I've been a Niner fan as long as I've watched football. Uh, and I used to play as the Raiders in NFL Street here and there when, when I was growing up. And, you know, I I enjoyed watching the Raiders when they were good in 2016. That was a really fun team to watch. On the contrary, my Niners that year, they were dog shit. So it was like, hey man, there was fun football in the Bay Area. It was just, on the other side of the bridge that I normally root for. But I think if the Raiders are good, I think it's good for the NFL.
Yeah, man, I have to agree. I mean, obviously as a Raider fan, but also like I'm sure Sammy Joe would agree. Like I think he even said it earlier. Like he'd like the Raiders to be good to see the AFC West to be this dominant division, um, which would it just makes it more fun, you know. I think if every team was good, and obviously we still have the same playoff format, like it would be better. It would just be like consistent competition, instead of teams always getting blown out, or not always, but just yeah. I can't wait. I just this draft, everything that Spytek and Carroll have done so far, I mean practically everything they have done. I'm just very confident that they're going to get this in the right direction. That it already is in the right direction, and that they're going to get it to where it needs to go.
I'm a little evil too because I'm over here saying the NFL is better if the Raiders are good, but there's a part of me that's like, yeah, man, I just want to see how long this like 2 decade streak of struggle can last. Like I want like there's part of me that's like, hey, man, how long can this really last? But then there's the other part of me that's like, hey, that's kind of fucked up. Like half of my friends and family or whatever, they're Raider fans, and like they have to just sit there and get old and watch garbage football. like, just it's just it's been the same shit for like 20 years.
Yeah, let's both agree that let's just let the Dolphins be that team, or the Browns actually. The Browns are just hilariously, the the shit of the league every year somehow. It's like they can make the best pick possible, something will go bad. Um, and the Raiders are right there behind him, and hopefully that's changing. Um,
It's the honestly,
yeah,
it's kind of the Jets, man. It's the Jets. The Browns
the
too.
Jets, yeah, yeah, Browns, Jets, and then unfortunately it feels like the Raiders are right there with them. But you can also throw in some teams like the Jags. So they've had like AFC championships and stuff in a couple of years ago. Yeah, they need to get out of it, man. Like if they keep building the roster that they're building it, like the way that they are, if they find their quarterback of the future, like this team could just take off in like 2 to 3 years. I can see it, but they have to do it right, and they have to find the right guys. Got to
Mm.
develop. They got to coach. They got to do it all.
You know what's a crazy team that's like a massive roller coaster ride, or that's been a
Roller
massive roller
coaster.
coaster ride? Like they're either hella good, they're either Super Bowl champions, or they're like, wow, worst fucking franchise, like among the worst franchises in the NFL.
Um, how far back are you going here? I want to get this. I want to get this right.
I'm going back, what, like 12, 13 years?
It's either winning Super Bowls or they're the worst.
Yeah.
I guess the Patriots, but
No,
I wouldn't consider them roller coaster.
no,
Hold
they
on.
they were they were top dog for a while.
Yeah, they were always top dog.
Okay, well,
Wow.
I'll say this: since the last Super Bowl that they won, they've been among the worst.
Wow. And if it shouldn't even be that, I guess the Colts.
No, although you could probably make the argument for the Colts too.
Yeah, 5-1 Raider Nation 5-0 agrees with me there. One of the teams that came to mind was the Packers, but they're kind of always competing. Um,
No,
it's certainly not the Ravens. I
no,
mean, like the Ravens, you consider roller coaster because they always get close and then they fall short.
no. The Ravens are consistently good.
Yeah, they're like the Steelers, but even better. Damn it, dude.
Dude,
I
like
mean, really, all the teams,
I'm talking they've been a laughing stock since their last Super Bowl.
and it was 12, 13 years ago,
Yeah.
or within the past. Yeah, see, it's not the Packers. Just some random team that won it. Is the Bears?
You know what? To be more exact, it is 14 years ago.
Is it the Saints?
No. Although they
That's
they
actually not a
they kind
bad
of fit,
one.
yeah, they fit the profile too,
Yeah.
but
I mean, ever since
not
Breeze,
not as
really.
much though.
Yeah, ever since Breeze. Wow, they won a Super Bowl.
They
Damn
won
it.
multiple Super Bowls.
Yeah, I like how Sammy Joe and Raider Nation
Raider
510
Nation
are like
came.
guessing literally at the same time as me. He's like Saints, Colts. All right, third time's a charm. Team that won the Super Bowl that's just back and forth, dog shit, worst of the league, or they, doing good.
You know what? I'm not even like I started off by saying roller coaster, but the more I think about it, it's
Oh, it's the Seahawks, huh?
no. Although
Fuck, come on,
no, it's
man.
not. All right, Raider Nation 510 got it. If you don't want to go,
Yeah.
it's the
Good call.
Giants,
Yes, the Giants. It's the
dude.
Giants. I'm too tired.
They won that Super Bowl, and then you know they like kind of lingered around with Eli Manning till the end of his career,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
they have just been that franchise that's like, I mean, maybe it's worse because they get so much media attention, and then kind of like the same thing with the Jets, but I feel like the Giants are like more the like, you know, they're the, I guess, darling to the media, you know, and the Jets are just like the forgotten franchise in New York a little bit,
Yeah.
or like they're the, you know, if you're really from New York, then you like the Jets. You know what I mean? But like everybody
Yeah.
else, it's like, oh yeah, the Giants. They're kind of like the, I guess the unpopular, popular team, if that makes sense. But yeah,
Slightly.
they have been fucking like laughing stock of the NFL ever since their last Super Bowl. Let's see. Sammy Joe says loved the Eli rap diss. Was it dissing Brady? Had to be. Who else would he diss?
Mm,
It's the one
right.
person that he can make fun of until he dies. Trump warned them to keep Saquon Barkley. Yeah, Saquon. Saquon's been blowing up. I think today because he went golfing with Trump.
Yep.
But yeah, Taints had their Breeze years. I'm Eli. I'm nice. Tom Brady the GOAT. I beat him twice. Yeah, no, that's pretty good. I mean, I love that, like, literally the fans would do that for him, you know? The fans would just, like, clown Brady about Eli, and then Eli Manning just, like, fucking does it himself. And then Brady's just kind of, like, cool with it because he's cool with Eli, but yeah.
Yeah. I
Speaking of
mean,
cool
when you've
with,
won like 7 Super Bowls, it's like you can't even bitch about 2 losses
yeah. Speaking of
or 8.
cool with, Mike and I would be very cool with, and we would much appreciate if you guys took a second to like, and if you haven't already subscribed to the Silver and Gold podcast on YouTube. Uh, we are the best Silver and Gold podcast on YouTube. You know, I was, you know, since we're kind of in like overtime, like, you know, just, you know, whatever. I searched up Silver and Gold podcast and found like this random dude who like started it a year ago. And I'm just like, how did we never know about this?
Yeah.
But he stopped making videos also a year ago. Probably found us and was like, yeah, I can't match that. But yeah,
Can't do
stay
4
tuned.
hours a night.
Yeah, stay tuned for the next episode. We'll try to keep you guys, I guess,
Updated.
updated, you know, with like YouTube posts. Um, And if you guys want to follow us on Twitter, it's over there just underneath Mike. It's at silver_gold pod on Twitter. And then on YouTube or TikTok, we are at silver and gold pod.
Even though we haven't really posted much on the TikTok, still got to work on that maybe this off season. But yeah, I would say if I had to guess when our next pod will be, maybe after some free agency signings, or just when we have good time to touch on some topics that might be on brand. Like I mentioned, I think there's a conversation to be had about Shedeur Sanders, but if we get there in like 2 weeks and it's like, it's old news, who gives a shit? We'll probably just be waiting for like free agency signings or what have you.
Yeah. If you want to follow Mike and I individually, our Twitter handles are, right in the bottom of our video feeds. And yeah, you can reach us, tweet at us directly there. And yeah, I think this past week, Mike, we've done probably more stream time than any other week span. Like, think about last Monday through this Monday, because we had like 2 streams go for like 4.5 hours. And then we had this stream tonight go for 2 hours and 37. It'll probably be like more 2:39 by the time we actually close out the stream. Yeah. Nothing. Raider Nation 510 says nothing is worse than the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl in our new stadium.
Thanks, Niners.
Yeah. Unless you're an AFL fan. Yeah.
Right.
Anyways, I just want to give a quick last second thank you to Raider Nation 510's, Slam and Sammy Joe, Frank Weber. Who else tuned in? Joel tuned in. Yep. Dub Alexander and 49er Media, and I think that might be
Shout
it.
out.
But anybody else who tuned in, didn't leave a comment. If you did leave a comment and I missed your name, so sorry. Yeah, we'll have to do this again soon, Mike, whenever there's stuff to talk about. You got any last words before we get out of here?
I got nothing else. I'm ecstatic about the draft class. And like I had mentioned, I wish the preseason were starting tomorrow, man. I can't wait to start getting those training camp updates in a good month or so.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more in the month.
Schedule release is right around the corner. We'll do a stream for that. We'll do a stream for that.
That's in 2 weeks. So there you go. Yeah. The 14th. So maybe a little over 2 weeks. Maybe we'll do like a Friday pod or we'll probably do the pod the night of the schedule release. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Does it release on the 14th?
That's what I believe was announced, April 14th or May 14th.
I got bad news for you, Mike.
Is it like a Thursday or something?
That's a Wednesday, and I will be in Las Vegas. Yeah, so we can still do a pod maybe on that Friday or maybe the following Monday, but it won't be like a reaction. Like, we'll know what we're talking about going in.
That'll probably make it a little shorter for once. So
yeah. So anyways, everybody, hope you guys have a great night. Thank you for tuning in again. Please like, subscribe, leave your comments, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.